Okay, so you're looking at educational paths for your family. And wow, it can feel like a maze, right? So many different ways to teach, different ideas.
Totally. It's a big decision.
And what if there was something different? A program that didn't just pick one method, but, carefully pulled together the best bits from lots of different approaches.
That's pretty much the idea behind Jill Dixon's Eclectic Academy of Learning, EAL. They've been doing this and doing it successfully for almost 30 years now.
Nearly 3 decades, yeah. So that's what we're digging into today.
Exactly. This deep dive is all about figuring out what makes EAL tick. Why isn't it just another homeschool program? What makes it unique and, frankly, successful as it heads towards year 28?
Okay.
We've looked into their philosophy, how they set things up, the impact on kids. So our mission, if you like, is to really unpack those things that make EL stand out and connect with homeschooling families, why it works.
Right. And that word eclectic seems key. It's right there in the name. When they say eclectic, what does that actually mean in the classroom or, at home?
Good question. Basically, eclectic here means they believe no single method has all the answers. So they strategically pick and mix the best parts from several well-respected educational ways of doing things.
Like what? What are they mixing in?
Okay, so for instance, they use elements of the classical method.
Hmm.
Think great books, really digging into literature, understanding language through Greek and Latin roots.
Ah, the building blocks.
Exactly, and developing that critical thinking muscle.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Okay. Sounds solid. But it's not just classical.
No, not at all. They blend that with things like unit studies. They call it interrelated education,
Interrelated, meaning.
meaning connecting subjects. So instead of history over here, literature over there, art somewhere else, they link them. You study a historical period and look at its art, its literature, its geography all together.
Yeah.
The idea is it makes learning deeper, more connected, more memorable, really.
That makes sense. Instead of just facts and boxes.
Right. Then there's the influence of Charlotte Mason. Using living books, stories that really grab you, not dry textbooks. And techniques like narration, getting kids to explain what they learned in their own words. Plus, they use things like a century timeline book, giving a visual map of history.
That sounds much more engaging than just memorizing dates, putting it all together.
Exactly. And they really lean into understanding that kids learn differently. That's where multi-intelligence and learning styles theory comes in.
How so?
Well, they try to teach in lots of ways. Visuals, hands-on stuff, listening activities, movement, trying to hit the right notes for different kids' strengths. But, they're also practical.
Practical.
Yeah, they aren't afraid to use traditional textbooks if that's the best tool for a particular subject. If it works, it works.
So it's like building a really diverse teaching toolkit. You mentioned core knowledge too. Is that like the public school thing?
Ah, good point. They do use core knowledge and cultural literacy principles, the idea that there's a base of essential knowledge in history, literature, that kind of thing, which helps kids understand the world. But, and this is interesting, they specifically say their approach is different from how it's often done in public schools. For ELL, it's about making sure students have that solid foundation, that shared cultural context. It's all part of creating this well-rounded education by carefully blending these different methods.
Got it. So the philosophy is this rich mix. How does that actually play out? You mentioned weekly classes that sounded pretty active.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge part of what makes EL unique and successful. They have these weekly classes, 1 day a week for 35 weeks for everyone from K-5 right up through 12th grade.
1 day a week.
Yeah. And these aren't just like study halls or checking homework. They are designed for active learning, hands-on teaching, educational games, activities.
Yeah.
They even bring in drama, speech, art.
So it's not just listening to a lecture or reviewing stuff done at home.
Definitely not. The main goal is to really teach the material and make it stick using all those different learning styles we talked about. Think about it using movement in games, visual stuff in art, music, or chanting facts, acting out history.
Yeah, that makes learning much more concrete.
It really does. That multisensory approach is key to how they help kids grasp things.
I can totally see how that would make learning more fun, more memorable. And we actually heard from some families about this, didn't we?
You did. There was Megan Colvin, a parent, who talked about her fourth grader really getting into writing because it was tied into the history they were learning. That's that interrelated approach right there.
Perfect example.
And she also mentioned how great the teachers were and the friendships her kid was making, which is huge.
Yeah, that social piece matters.
And then a student, Matthew Bryson, actually called it a fun curriculum. He mentioned exciting activities, nice friends, fun teachers, And importantly, recess.
Ah, you know it's working when a kid highlights recess and the fun curriculum. And what about those history festivals? That sounds amazing.
Yes, those are such a cool example of bringing learning alive. They have these festivals where kids dive into a time period. They put on plays, learn historical dances, even cook and eat food from that era.
Mm.
It's that kind of hands-on immersive experience that really seems to make EL stand out and stick with students, way beyond just reading about it.
Okay, so it's engaging, hands-on. But what about the structure? Sometimes homeschool parents want, a clear path. Does EAL offer that too?
That's a really crucial balance, and yeah, they seem to handle it well. Their official purpose actually states they provide a structured college prep program to assist parents, and they provide accountability.
Oh, through the classes.
Partly, yes, but also through course packs with work that gets evaluated each week. So parents get regular feedback, they know how things are going. It keeps everyone on the same page.
So you're not just floating out there on your own.
Exactly. And we heard from Emily Davidson, who said EL hit the perfect balance between that structure and flexibility, which is gold for homeschooling, right? Life happens. You might want to take a trip.
For sure.
So having that solid framework, but also the room to breathe and adapt, seems really key to their success.
Okay, structure and flexibility. Now, let's talk content. The curriculum itself, it looked pretty comprehensive.
Oh, it really is. Especially for the older grades, 4 through 12. It's quite expensive. In writing, they cover 16 genres and include a research paper, history cycles through ancient, world, and American over 4 years.
Okay.
Then there's specific instruction in critical thinking, church history, vocabulary using Greek and Latin roots, geography, speech, and oratory.
Wow, okay. Keep going.
There's government, English grammar, drama, editing and proofreading, art and art history, literary analysis, map skills, tons of literature, American, British, world, plus research skills, Bible
So we
history,
really cover a lot.
and ACTSC prep, philosophy prep for AP and CLEP exams, study skills, test-taking skills. I mean, the list goes on. It's clearly aimed at giving a very thorough, well-rounded education, definitely college preparatory.
That is a lot. What about the little ones, the explorers, K3?
Yeah, for the explorers, the focus is naturally a bit different. It's all about building that super strong foundation in literacy. So decoding for reading, writing basics, comprehension, vocab, spelling, speaking, listening, all of it.
Getting the fundamentals right.
Exactly. And developing thinking skills early on. And maybe most importantly, trying to spark that real love of learning
How do they do that?
through things like engaging read-alouds, phonics work, fun vocab games, reader's theater, which is great for fluency grammar, early writing, even starting timelines and map skills using stories from history, just building that base.
Sounds like a really intentional ramp up, and high schoolers can actually get credits.
Yes, typically 4 to 5 credits a year if they complete the work. And they also offer accreditation services, which can be a big help for college applications. Sometimes that's an extra fee, but it's an option,
So ELL is definitely looking ahead, preparing kids for what's next after homeschool.
no doubt. Like we mentioned, the SATAC prep starts pretty early, even foundational stuff in 4th grade, then ramps up weekly from 8th grade on.
Wow, fourth grade.
Yeah. And test-taking skills are taught explicitly from 4th grade too, with regular mastery tests. It builds confidence and familiarity. The fact that their high school grads are ready for AP and CLEP exams really speaks volumes about the level of the program.
Which exams have they done well on?
The info we saw mentions successes on AP English Language,
Ah.
CLEP Analyzing Literature, and Western Civilization, ICLEP. And the curriculum suggests they'd be prepared for others too.
And it's not just about tests. That list of jobs former students have, it was really varied.
It really was. Attorney, U.S. Marshal, teacher, Special Forces, photographer, musician, engineer, professor, chef. I mean, it's all over the map.
Yeah.
Which suggests, that the program gives kids a solid, adaptable foundation that works for lots of different paths,
Yeah.
not just one track.
That makes sense. Now, community. Homeschooling can sometimes feel a bit isolating. Does EL address that?
It definitely seems to be a big focus. The sources kept mentioning this close-knit community, a really nurturing environment for students and parents.
How does that develop? Through the weekly classes.
That's likely a big part of it.
Hmm.
The drop-off nature probably helps parents connect, too. We heard from Krista Nolan, who specifically talked about the great community and the lifelong friendships her family made there.
That's lovely.
And Chrissy Bryson called it a wonderful experience with a great community and pointed out how helpful the local directors are as points of contact. That support network matters.
So that community aspect is clearly a big draw, a big part of their success. What about for the parents managing things at home? Is it Like easy to use?
That seems to be a priority too, making it accessible and doable for homeschooling parents.
Mm.
The curriculum is designed to be pretty straightforward to implement at home.
Okay.
They provide really detailed, structured assignments for the home days. Remember Emily Davidson's comment about the perfect balance of structure and flexibility? That speaks to this. It's manageable.
And finances, always a consideration.
Right. They seem aware of that. They offer payment options through PayPal, like Pay in 4 or their credit line, to help spread out tuition and fees.
And the actual tuition costs.
Pretty clear cut. Monthly rates are $135 for K-5 third, $160 for 4th 8th, and $175 for 9th 12th. And they give a $10 discount per month for siblings, which helps bigger families.
Okay. Now, behind all this is the founder, Jill Dixon. Her experience seems pretty extensive.
Oh, absolutely. Over 40 years in education. She has a bachelor's and a master's degree in education, both with honors. She's taught in public and private schools, worked with special needs kids,
Wow.
and, crucially, she homeschooled her own 4 kids for 27 years. So she gets it from both sides.
Professional and personal experience.
Exactly. Plus, she's written a lot of educational materials guides, curricula that are apparently well known in the homeschool world. She even consults for the Homeschool Legal Defense Association.
So a recognized expert.
Very much so. And she has experienced directors running at the different campuses, too, in places like Tucker, Richmond Hill, Rincon, Mesquite. That experienced leadership is definitely part of the picture.
It really sounds like a program built on deep knowledge. And you mentioned earlier they specifically accommodate special needs learners. That seems important.
Yes, and that's a really key point of uniqueness, I think. They explicitly state that the curriculum and methods are adaptable for kids with special needs, and those students are welcome.
How does that work in practice?
The directors at each location are encouraged to work with families to make adaptations. Things like maybe letting a child test at home, or adjusting reading load, or allowing dictation instead of writing everything out.
That's fantastic.
It really is. That kind of inclusivity and willingness to adapt definitely contributes to their success and how they serve the wider homeschool community.
So putting it all together, we've really seen what makes EAL different. It's not just one thing, is it?
Not at all. It's this whole package.
Yeah.
That smart, eclectic approach, the focus on really engaging hands-on learning, the balance of structure and flexibility.
The super comprehensive curriculum aimed at the future.
Right. Plus the strong community feel, making it practical for parents, the experienced leadership, and that crucial adaptability for different learners,
Yeah.
including special needs.
And seeing how all those pieces fit together, you can understand why it's lasted almost 30 years and why people seem so positive about it. The testimonials, the career paths, it points to something working well.
Yeah, it really does seem like a model that hits a lot of the right notes for homeschooling families. It addresses a lot of needs.
So as you've been listening and thinking about all these facets of EAL, here's something to maybe mull over. Which part of this unique blend resonates most with you? With your own goals or what your child might need?
Mm.
Just thinking about how that kind of supportive, multifaceted environment could really shape a kid's whole educational journey. It's
Yeah.
pretty powerful stuff to consider.